Self-medicating, mental health in the African American community. Hello, my name is Candace. Thank you for tuning in to my channel, Openly Broken, where I discuss mental health in the African American community as it relates to African American women. When I was in college, I took a religious course that required each student to read and discuss two monks and a woman. This was a story about two monks that were getting ready to cross a river and came across a very attractive young woman who was also trying to cross the river but was having trouble. She called to them for help. They both hesitated because they had taken a vow forbidding them to touch any woman. Well, the older monk stepped forward and lifted the woman and carried her across the river. As soon as he reached the other side, he set her down, and both monks continued their journey. The younger monk, however, questioned the older monk's decision. After several hours of thinking about it, he just couldn't keep quiet any longer. He had to ask the older monk why he decided to help the woman, knowing the vow that they both taken. The eldest monk turned to him and said, "Brother, I set her down on the other side of the river. Why are you still carrying her?" It's been years since I read that, and I've never forgotten it. When I was thinking about why people self-medicate, I was reminded of this story. There are some people that come into our life and things that happen to us, and we never forget them. They are with us always. When we wake up in the morning, they're there. Throughout the day, as we are eating breakfast, at work, talking on the phone, watching television, doing the laundry, they're there. And as we lay our heads down and close our eyes, they lay with us and enter our dreams. It's never ending. There are brief moments of relief, but they are short-lived. What is self-medicating? I've wanted to talk about this subject for a long time now, but honestly, the fact that I'm still currently doing this myself has kept me from discussing it until now. Self-medication, by definition, is a human behavior in which an individual uses substances or any influence for physical or psychological ailments. The term self-medicating is used when substances, drugs, or alcohols are abused to mask symptoms of mental health issue. This is the definition that I most relate to because it pretty much sums everything up. Now, there is something called the self-medication hypothesis. According to the American Journal of Psychiatry, the self-medication hypothesis was introduced in 1985 and is the idea that substance abuse can be a form of self-medication. It also states that alcohol and drug abuse is often used to cope with a variety of mental health conditions, including depression. This is basically saying that people who deal with depression and PTSD and other mental health issues have realized that alcohol, weed, food, and other drugs can temporarily relieve them of their mental illness. And it's true. It does indeed provide a temporary relief, the key word being temporary, and honestly these substances, if abused, which most oftentimes they are, lead to far more serious problems. These problems turn into addictions that are hard to break and cause serious health issues. So the question remains, why do we still self-medicate? And why do we self-medicate with things that only provide a temporary solution and also present long-lasting, serious future health issues? Why do we self-medicate? There are many reasons why people turn to drugs or alcohol. Social pressures, the desire to feel a certain way, curiosity, to escape reality, relieve stress, forget a trauma, ease physical or emotional discomfort, and to reduce symptoms of a mental illness. When I posted that I would be discussing this topic during my live talk session on Instagram, I got a lot of responses. This response came in my inbox from one of my followers, and her name is Kaya. She has a blog called Notes by Kaya, and she's actually written a few posts on mental health. She's very well versed on the subject because she works in that field, and I was very grateful for the comments that she provided. She stated that working in mental health, I see it all the time, especially before they realize what they are dealing with is treatable by legal medications and therapy. A lot of times, self-medicating is easier, more accessible, and works faster. Antidepressants, anxiety medications, and other psychotropics can take weeks to get into your systems to feel any effect, and sometimes it takes years to get the right dosage and combination. People often use other substitutions because it can take just a few minutes for effects, and they know what works. Self-medicating with food. As African Americans, we have often turned to food to provide us with a source of nourishment and comfort. At almost every event, the good ones like weddings, baby showers, birthday parties, graduations, church services, family reunions, and even the bad ones such as funerals and wakes, there's always food. Both of my hands are raised when it comes to self-medicating with food. In good times and bad, there's always been food. It's been a very constant and stable thing in my life in a not so constant and stable world. I haven't always realized that I turn to food in high stress situations and down days until I've either fasted or tried dieting. This is when I'm faced with how big of a role food plays in my life. I've seen others easily turn their plates down or manage very healthy eating lifestyles, but it's been the one area of my life that stays out of my control. Emotional eating is when food is used as a way to suppress or soothe negative emotions. This is also known as binge eating. Comfort eating may temporarily reduce stress in those that aren't clinically depressed. Binge eating is not a healthy way to treat depression. It can negatively impact self-esteem and make symptoms of mental illness worse. Self-medicating with alcohol. It's funny how quickly one drink can easily escalate to 2, to 3, to 4 until you realize that you don't really want to do anything without a drink first. Honestly, that's where I saw my life heading. Alcohol is another temporary fix. It definitely helps with dealing with my depression. One sip and I can feel myself become more calmer, and I know this may sound crazy, but I felt like I could think more clearly. I felt less anxious and my spirit lifted. However, when that feeling faded away, my anxiety came back with a vengeance. I would always feel worse, which led me to reach for the bottle a lot more frequently than I ever wanted to. One day I looked around at all of the empty bottles I collected over a short period of time and realized that I don't want to be this woman. I don't want a temporary fix. I want a solution. In low doses, alcohol can temporarily relieve symptoms of depression. However, when used as regular treatment, it can lead to alcoholism, which worsens depression. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, is another condition that frequently results in self-medicating with alcohol. Research shows that trauma is often linked to alcohol abuse, and I just want to elaborate on that a little further because I've read research and I know For me, when I used to think of PTSD, I always thought of people in the military, people that's been in battles and in combat. They come home and they suffer from PTSD. But research shows that a lot of African Americans and people in low income housing and low income settings deal with post traumatic stress disorder. Women that have been in abusive relationships deal with post-traumatic stress disorder, and the fact that they have linked that to alcohol abuse speaks volumes to how we see so many young African Americans abusing alcohol. It is really an epidemic, and if you sit back and look at it, you know, a lot of it is promoted in like videos and music and all of that stuff, but it's being abused a lot with, you know, the younger generation, where, you know, years ago I remember just being around some younger people that were like in their early 20s at the time, and you know, first thing in the morning they were drinking, you know, and after having some conversations with them, it's very clear to me now that I know these things, that the reason why they were drinking was because of issues that they didn't really even know were issues, or didn't know how to deal with them, don't know what to do to get help for them. So instead they turn to alcohol, and now years later there's health issues with them, and you know, abuse where treatment is being sought. You know, they have to really go and probably check themselves in, which they probably will never do, because as African Americans, we sort of don't even see that as help for us. You know, we just continue on with life, continue abusing drinks, maybe settling down for a little bit, but then returning to it because we never really deal with it. So this is such a major issue that we really do have to take the time to look into this in our community. We cannot avoid it. We cannot push it back. We cannot laugh it off. We have to face the things that we're dealing with and talk to people and get help for our issues, and there is help available. So, self-medicating with weed. Weed is probably the most commonly used drug among African Americans to treat depression and other mental illnesses. Unfortunately, although it has been proven to work, it is, however, still illegal in many states. So therefore, people who do use it to treat their mental illnesses run the risk of breaking the law. Not only that, it only works in small doses, so it can easily become something that if it's mismanaged, it can actually make matters worse. I hear so many different opinions on marijuana. It's addictive, it makes you lazy, it's wrong, it goes against the Bible, and some of those things I can't speak on because I'm not God. I'm not here to judge anyone. I just can't do that. I will say this, I get it, I understand, it's hard living with depression. You want a break, you want whatever relief you can get, and you will honestly take it in any form you can get it. But the one thing I can say with 100% assurance is this: it is temporary. It's not a magical cure. It wears off, and I have found myself worse off because my anxiety is heightened. It's like being in the worst pain physically and then getting the best pain medicine that only lasts for like 4 hours. And yes, those 4 hours are the best hours of your life, but when they're over, they are truly over. You crash and you come down hard. That's the problem that I found with weed. It's just another temporary fix to what seems like a permanent problem. So therefore, it might be the best thing for someone else, but for me it's not. I really need a solution. Cannabis is the most widely used illicit substance among those with depressive disorder. It has been found effective in treating depression in small doses. However, too much can worsen symptoms of depression. And just sidebar, there are of course other strong drugs such as opiates, that are used with self-medicating, but I won't be discussing them during this time. I will say this: when it comes to marijuana, especially in the black community, it is a lot of times what a lot of men, and what I've come to find out, a lot of women turn to when dealing with things. I know people look at it and they're like, oh, they just want to smoke weed, they just want to sit around all day and smoke weed, they just want to chill, and that's just simply not the truth. It's not. A lot of African Americans are dealing with mental issues. We just don't talk about it. We just don't know about it. There are a lot of things that people have dealt with, and although some people have dealt with certain things and they're getting along just fine, for whatever reason, that's not the case for a lot of people. In our communities, we take it very lightly. Certain things that other races, they don't take it lightly. They get help for their issues. We continue to walk around with mental issues, trying to live life normally, and it's just simply not working. And if you look at all of the substance abuse, you will see that us living that life is not working for us. We really need to stop and take a look at this. We really need to educate ourselves. We need to educate our family members, the people that we love and care about, our church members. We really need to educate them on the dangers of mental health, and then talk about self-medicating, because a lot of people that you work with, that you go to church with, are self-medicating. Before they come to church, they getting high. Before they come to church, they're drinking. Before they go to work, they're doing the same things after work, after church, whatever you want to call it. And I know that, we may look at certain people, but the other day I talked to a pastor that talked to me very openly and candidly about the alcohol problem that they used to have and how they had to seek help and get help for it. It's very real and no one is above it. So I just want to put that out there, that this is a very serious issue and it's never anything to just take lightly and just say, oh, they just want to get high, they just want to sit around and do nothing. That may be the case for some people, but it should just never be assumed, and I was one of those people that definitely felt that way because I just didn't get it. I didn't understand, but I definitely get it now, and I definitely understand, and I don't excuse any wrong behavior, but I just feel like we definitely have to take a look at people individually and not collectively and just assuming certain things. We have to really open our hearts and our minds to what people are going through, and just because certain people can go through things and they're okay, that does not make it the case for everyone, especially a lot of black men. They are really hurting. They're really going through a lot of different things, and they're just turning to drugs and turning to alcohol and turning to sex and turning to a lot of different things to self-medicate that just is not healthy. The dangers of self-medicating. The problems with self-medicating, in my opinion, is that you never really get to the root of the problem. Self-medicating will only mask or cover the real issue. It's a temporary fix, and it gives a temporary solution to an issue that feels very permanent. I've definitely come to recognize this for myself. Like I said, I am currently dealing with this now, and I realized that self-medicating felt like a solution at first because I was just happy to find some relief. But now I can't really stomach the idea of doing this for the rest of my life. First of all, it's very unhealthy. And for all of the judgy McJudgers out there, yes, I know that's not a word. Self-medication comes in many forms. It includes, like you heard earlier, food. So don't be so quick to point and wag your little finger. You know, it includes a lot of different things. A lot of unhealthy behaviors is easy to pick up, and some things are easier to hide than others. According to the National Center for Biotechnology, potential risks of self-medication practices include incorrect self-diagnosis, delays in seeking medical advice when needed, incorrect manner of administration, incorrect dosage, incorrect choice of therapy, masking of a severe disease, and risk of dependence and abuse. African American women are the most undertreated group of people in the United States of America. The very last thing we want to do is have one more thing that we gotta do. But our mental health is too important to ignore. We have a lot of unresolved issues ranging from molestation, sexual abuse, physical abuse, just to name a few. And this goes back for generations. Yet we often don't seek the help we need. We are often the ones who are covering up our stains, shames, and blemishes with fake smiles, comfort foods, a few drinks, and yes, drugs. It is very unhealthy, and it leads to substance abuse, obesity, and alcoholism. So what can we do? I wish I had the answer. I've avoided this topic for a while now, only because I felt like I needed to be able to provide some type of solution. But honestly, I'm still currently dealing with this and really doing a lot of soul searching, praying, talking, and researching. I will say this, I started this article still self-medicating, but during the course of researching and talking to a few counselors and a pastor, I have decided to stop it immediately. I emptied every liquor bottle that I had and made a few choices about some other things. I'm doing my best to stay on a healthy eating plan and exercising regularly. I can't say that I'll do this always, but I'm taking it one day at a time, and that's the best that I can offer myself and to anyone else. One thing I do know is this: I don't want to live like this forever. Self-medicating is not the answer. It is a temporary fix, and we all have to question and examine ourselves as to why we do the things that we do. I could never tell you why. Only you can do this. But ask yourself this: have you ever felt that you should cut down on your self-medicating habit? Have people annoyed you by criticizing your habit? Have you ever felt bad or guilty about your habit? Have you ever had to have your habit first thing in the morning to steady your nerves? The more questions that you answer yes to, the more likely that you are abusing or mismanaging it, and you need to seek help immediately. I appreciate you taking the time out to listen to this article. You can always check it out on my blog, openlybroken2015.blogspot.com. That is openlybroken2015.blogspot.com. You can also check me out on Instagram at openly.broken. I go live every Thursday to discuss mental health issues in the African American community. So I look forward to hearing your thoughts and your comments either here or during the live discussion. And peace.